book lovers, Jen here with a YA book review for you of Enchantment of Ravens by Margaret Rogerson. And this book just came out fairly recently. I think it came out actually, it's October 24th. I think it came out just like last week or a couple weeks ago or something. I think it came out sometime this month. So this is a book about fae, as in fairies, and it's a standalone as far as I know, but the way the ending is, I think it could be open to another story set in the same place, or a story even following the same characters. I'm not sure if that was the author's intention. Overall, I love this book. I really enjoy books about the fae. I love the Wicked Lovely series. I only read it once. I believe that's by Melissa Marr, but I really enjoyed it. And that's like a I think it's like a 5-book series or a 6-book series. I also like Ballad and Lament by Maggie Stiefvater, which is her first trilogy that's unfinished still, which is a fae book, and I really enjoyed that book. So it's just something that I personally enjoy, which would make me like the story that much more. I guess, and I've never read Avatar, but I guess that there are some comparisons. I will say that I know Sarah J. Maas's books can be what I like to call sexy times, and there is nothing extreme in there. In this one, there's like one scene that's just like passionate, but not like sexy passionate. So you might be wondering, why is it called Enchantment of Ravens? And that's because there is a autumn prince in here, and he can change into animal form, although in this story he only changes into rabbit, horse, and bird. So he can turn himself into a raven. The artist in the story is Isobel, and she lives in a town called Whimsy that has like happy summer weather all the time. And basically what the premise is that these people in this town engage with the fair folk in order to get like they'll get paid in enchantments, I guess you could say. But with the fae, you have to be very careful about how you word things because they're known as tricksters. And Isobel is a very talented painter, and all these things like tailors and painters and chefs and bakers, what they have is called the craft, and it's something that the fae can't engage in. If they do, they like turn into dust. And she's a very talented painter. She's 17, and she has a lot of clients, and the autumn prince comes to her, his name is Rook, to be painted, and he hadn't been in Whimsy in like centuries, and it's kind of unexpected. And Isobel finds that she kind of like, you know, is falling for him a little bit after their sessions, which I gathered passage of time to be anywhere from like a few weeks to a month maybe, of her painting him daily for hours at a time. And he is falling for her too, based on how he's acting, it seems. And what happens is she can't place this look in his eyes, and she paints him with human sorrow. So he comes, after he receives the painting in his court, he comes and he's going to stand her to trial for giving him a human emotion because it makes him look weak, and which is like a big no-no. So what ends up happening is they go on this adventure, and there's a lot more at play than what meets the eye. And very early on we find out that Isobel, like, the painting is like the least of their concerns, and they're kind of thrust into this adventure together and have to solve it together, and the whole incident kind of fades into the background a little bit. Not the painting itself, but like Rook's irritation and upsetness about it kind of goes away. So I don't want to give anything spoilery, so that's where the story is going. Things that I wasn't a super fan of would include sometimes the writing seemed a little overly detailed. I find this a lot kind of in a way, and I'm confused by that because every writer's workshop that I attend or writer's conference I go to, agents and editors and other authors are always telling you to cut words, cut words, cut words. So I'm not sure how sometimes I stumble upon these stories that have like, you know, over description. However, I will say that for the most part it was appropriate because it's like a fairy tale kind of story. At least that's what I was telling myself in my head. But there were a couple times where I actually didn't even know what words are, which I think is kind of weird considering this is one, for a YA audience, and two, I'm not uneducated, you know? I mean, I talk how I talk, but I have a master's degree. I obtained my master's like 11 years ago now. I have a bachelor's in English with a minor in writing. You know, I graduated magna cum laude, so I'm not a dummy. So to stumble upon a word that I've never even come across and I'm pretty well read is a little strange, because it makes me wonder, like, well, what's the target audience going to do with that? Having taught for almost a decade, my students, like, they would just be like, whatever, and they would just go over the word. So anyway, I just thought it was peculiar. Really, let me think. Really, I think that's the only thing. There was one other thing that bothered me, and since I said this wasn't going to be, actually, I can say this. It's not a spoiler, I don't think. I'll leave out the part that might be a spoiler. So basically, Isobel's name and everyone else in Whimsy, they don't go by their true names, because if the Fae know your true name, then they can, like, exert control over you. And, like, we go through the whole story where Isobel talks about it, but we never learn what her true name is. And that, like, really bothered me for some reason. I don't know if it's, like, the OCD in me or what, but, like, I really wanted to know. There was, like, the perfect scene at the end where her true name could have been, like, given to the reader, and it wasn't, and it kind of made me sad a little bit. But other than those things, I really enjoyed this story. It was easy to get lost into. I like that it has closure, but then there's just, like, a hint that if the author wanted to expand it, you know, that they could. Another thing I thought was super cool and very rare, I find, in books, and as an indie I have a little bit more control over such a thing, but that the like, cover art isn't always reflective of something specific in the story. This cover art and the dress that she's wearing is actually specific to a certain part of the story, and I found out that the cover design was done by Charlie Bowater, who is pretty active in the Bookstagram community as an illustrator, and someone who creates art and prints and things that are used in book subscription boxes. And I just thought it was super cool that she did this cover, and I think the cover is gorgeous. And it also has, I mean, it's like a full continuous spread image, which I think is cool. And I don't know, I love the cover itself. I think it's really pretty, and I like, it's kind of like metallic and stuff. So that was kind of fun to find out, and I found that out in the acknowledgements. So yeah, Enchantment of Ravens. I really liked it. I can't compare it to ACOTAR at all, since I've never read it. But if you're just looking for what I think is a standalone book, at least as of right now, and a good read that kind of takes your imagination away, and a story that you can get lost in that's not overly complicated, then I highly recommend An Enchantment of Ravens. In the meanwhile, happy reading and happy writing.